They say that the fly that has no one to advise him follows the corpse into the grave. Today, the political atmosphere in Nigeria has officially shifted, and Senate President Godswill Akpabio just walked into a political trap of his own making. Welcome back to Mr. Nigeria Reports. If you thought the battle for 2027 was a distant dream, think again. A live television event just turned into a public dismantling of the establishment. You are about to witness the exact moment former Senate President David Mark didn't just correct Akpabio, he effectively deleted his entire political authority in front of the world. By the time this 7-minute investigation is over, you will see why Aso Rock is currently in a state of high alert panic. We are breaking down the secret plan to keep the 2027 results in the dark and how one man's refusal to stay silent just gave millions of Nigerians a reason to believe again. The masks are off, the truth is out, and for the Senate President, it is officially finished. Let's look at the facts. Godswill Akpabio stood before a room full of leaders and tried to convince us that the 2023 elections were a victory for democracy. His proof? He pointed to the fact that Peter Obi won in the Southeast, Lagos and Delta.
But listen closely to the insult hidden in his words. Akpabio is essentially saying that because the opposition was allowed to win a few states, the entire electoral act is perfect. He is using these crumbs of victory to justify the removal of the one thing that would make our votes truly count, the real-time electronic transmission of results. He had the audacity to suggest that the opposition will still lose regardless of the laws. This is not the language of a leader, this is the language of a man who believes he is the owner of the electoral outcome. He is speaking for INEC. He is speaking for the incumbency, but he has completely forgotten that he is supposed to be the head of the People's Assembly. He wanted to bury the electronic transmission debate, but he didn't realize who was sitting in the front row. Then it happened, the moment that has now set the Nigerian internet on fire. David Mark, a man who knows the weight of that Senate seat, could no longer stomach the arrogance. He didn't wait for a question and answer session. He stepped in right there and silenced Akpabio with a masterclass in legislative truth. David Mark told him plainly, "Don't speak for INEC. INEC is an independent body. You speak for the National Assembly. You speak for the people." He went further to expose the cowardice of the current Senate leadership. He demanded that they pass the law for electronic transmission first and let INEC be the ones to say they cannot execute it. In that single moment, David Mark deleted the excuse that connectivity is the problem. He unmasked the reality that the problem isn't the network in the village, the problem is the fear in the Senate. The silence that followed was the sound of a checkmate that didn't need to be spoken. Akpabio was left looking for a place to hide his face, while the room realized they were watching a true leader correct a politician.
Why is Aso Rock so terrified of what David Mark said? Because the 2027 darkness plot relies entirely on manual collation. They know that if the results hit the internet the moment they leave the polling unit, the power to adjust numbers in the middle of the night vanishes. They saw what happened in 2023 when the IReV glitched only for the presidential results. They saw the brutal crushing of public hope. David Mark's intervention has resurrected the one thing they thought they had killed, the demand for transparency. By challenging Akpabio to stop being a PR agent for INEC and start being a lawmaker for Nigerians, David Mark has signaled to the entire country that the establishment is not a monolith. There are still people who remember what a Senate is supposed to be. Akpabio wanted to bury the truth, but David Mark just turned on the lights and the cockroaches are currently running for cover. The live exchange we witnessed was more than just a political roast. It was a declaration of war on electoral fraud. It was a reminder that no matter how high a man climbs, he can never be taller than the truth. Godswill Akpabio may hold the gavel, but David Mark just showed us who holds the conscience of the nation. The question is no longer about whether we have the technology for electronic transmission. We have the phones, we have the apps, and we have have the will. The only thing missing is a Senate that isn't afraid of the people's choice. I want to hear from you, the real owners of Nigeria. After seeing David Mark silence the Senate President, do you believe there is still hope for a transparent 2027? Is it time for the National Assembly to stop making excuses for INEC? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you believe that our votes must be transmitted electronically, type transparency right now. Smash that like button, subscribe to Mr. Nigeria Reports, and share this video with everyone who is tired of the math of rigging. We are reaching 5 million views because the truth is an avalanche that no Senate president can stop. I'll see you in the next one.